Earlier this week, Payday 3 Update 14 finally released after a 5-month wait, and I'm finally here to talk about it nearly 5 days later. Let's pretend that was intentional, because it sounds better that way. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, I hope you're all doing well. Today I just want to play a little bit of Payday 3 Update 14, a bit like I did with the Update 13 video, because a lot of you seem to enjoy how I did that video, and I really appreciated it. It was nice to kind of play in a very chill way and chat about my thoughts on the update. So I want to kind of go over a few of the key things, give my thoughts on the update, and why I overall really had fun with this update. You know, it's been quite an interesting one, because this one had quite a lot of early information, early reviews from, say, Starbreeze partners, and it allowed there to be a bit of an idea going ahead of time as to what was good and bad about the update. So I certainly had my own thoughts on how I thought it was all going to go down, but when I actually played it, I ended up feeling quite different. So we're going to get into it and talk about it all. But of course, as always, if you are new to the channel, please consider clicking subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I know content's been very dry for the last few months, and I know I always say I'm going to get better, but I'm hoping in the next couple of months, as some of my other work dies down a little bit, I can put a bit more time into YouTube, because I genuinely am really missing doing some content on here. So stay tuned, coming soon. Like that Sonic 06 video I keep promising. No dates anymore, but it is coming still. And if you are new or whether you're a returning viewer, please feel free to click the like button to help support the video and get it out in the algorithm. It would mean a lot to me. So, since we're in the main menu, let's start by looking at the changes to the loadout, namely Armor 2.0, but also just a small one. I love that we now have different outfits for different loadouts. That was something that I wished would have been the last update, and I'm glad they've added it in now. That just feels very much more akin to Payday 2, which is not the only thing that feels more akin to Payday 2 in this update, but I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was quite cool. But Armor 2.0 is here at last, and this one has been talked about for what feels like 8 or 9 months at this point, right? I lost track, and I can't really be bothered to look it back up again. It's been that long, but we finally got it in the game with this update, and I think pretty much completely across the board, it's been a very good addition. I think obviously there are some arguments that can be made that it's going to make the game even easier to play, yada yada yada. I mean, that's constantly a thing that's been going on with Payday 3 updates for a while now. But really, I only have 2 notable critiques of the Armor 2.0 system. One is just an accessibility issue. I think that for people who are coming into the game who have not been following the online content or blogs from Starbreeze, I don't know if in-game it's explained well enough to make it clear how it all works. I mean, I did a stream on Monday night and still had some questions I wanted to be answered because I wasn't sure how it would work if you had different plates within a frame. I had to have people in the chat reminding me of how that worked. I just think it could do with having a bit more explanation in-game as to how this stuff works, a tutorial button or just a couple of key steps as to how you do things would help a lot. The only other thing, and it's a small critique which would need me to turn my camera off, if you look at the different plates, obviously as we've talked about before on this channel at the very least, each of the different frames that you have and the different number of plates will give you a speed penalty, ammo capacity changes, number of consumable slot changes, but also you get a specific perk you can see underneath consumable slots. The only thing that makes me sad is that the tool one, the specialist frame, where if you have a tool in your loadout, you start the heist with one additional tool, that is perfect for stealth. And if you have seen my stealth build tutorial, I've just realised how much brighter my camera's got. Ignore it, it's what it's always like in daytime in this room, it just fluctuates. With a stealth build, like the one that I put on YouTube last year, that one heavily relies on camera looping and also tools to help you shut off some cameras. Now granted, an extra tool makes it even easier to stealth, so you kind of maybe need something to counter how much easier it's made, but with a stealth build you want to have the best movement speed possible, so it would make sense for all stealth gameplay to use the medtech frame. But that one gives you extra health from picking up first aid kits, which granted is great for loud builds, don't get me wrong, that makes perfect sense if you're going for a health focused build, but I feel like the tool one suffers from being on a frame that does give you a light speed penalty. It's nothing major, you can still play fine without it, but I kind of wish that some of these frames maybe had some loud and stealth benefits, because there's not too much benefit to bringing tools in loud. There are some you can definitely use, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it would change the game too much, and I feel like maybe having a loud and a stealth bonus could be cool. Only issue with that is, of course, they'd have to think of a loud and stealth one for all 4 frames, and that may be challenging, so I get why. But just to recap how it works, if you don't remember by now, when you go into your frame with its unique traits for plates, max downs, plates regen, again, I'll turn my camera off for just a moment so you can see, your stats will change based on the plates that you equip. So you can see on the left-hand side, depending on the plate you equip, you get a different regen time as well as a different number of max down reductions. If you equip the resistant plate, the typical Payday 3 armor, it will wear down, it will break, it'll be gone, then you don't lose any downs and you have the fastest regen time. Then you have adaptive, the one where it works very similar to Payday 3 armor, however, if the plate doesn't fully break, it will regenerate back. And then you have impact plate, where no matter what happens to it, it will always come back. The interesting thing with these plates, especially the impact ones, is if you, for example, bring a 3-plate armor frame, let's say this Saboteur one, and you bring, let's say, a resistant plate in the middle and then 2 impacts, so 2 Payday 2 shield ones on either side and a Payday 3 one in the middle, if you break the shield plate in the middle, the resistant plate, if that breaks, you will still replenish both the inner and outer impact plates after the time has elapsed. that's however long it takes you to regen your time. And you'll notice that depending on what you select, the number of downs and plate regens change on the right side of the screen. So you can see how long it's going to take you to heal back all of the armor based on your selection. So for example, if this middle plate breaks, it will still take 7 seconds for the impact plates to regenerate, but when they do, they will fully replenish, so you'll have the first and third plates back straight away. Like I said, I think it's a really good addition. I just think it could be explained a little clearer for people who don't know what's going on. And I'm imagining there might be some people watching who are going, I don't know what you meant talking about that. It could be clearer in places. But you can also see just under my camera that there is no damage reduction for impact plates, 30% for adaptive, and 60% for resistant, which I think is a buff across the board for both of those. So that's cool. I quite like how they've done Armor 2.0. It's a feature the game has needed for a long time, a bit more customization on the armor front, and I think they've done it really well. I haven't experimented with builds just yet. If anything, all I've been doing is playing the new Heist, but I think it's really, really fun to use, and I like it a lot. Of course, you also have the Justicia shotgun, or Justicar. Keep going to call it Justicia, I guess it's the Skyrim player in me. My only downside to this is I wish it had a suppressor at launch. I really want to equip the Silent Kill, and I haven't quite got it unlocked yet, but that's a me problem. I'll get there soon enough, no doubt. But yeah, the Justicar shotgun, as you say it, or Judge, I mean, if you can just call it the Judge, and I don't think anyone will bat an eyelid. Very fun to use in this game. I'm going to do some stealth gameplay, maybe some loud later, but I do like the headshot power pack that it has, much like the Deagle or the Revolver that the game already has. I think you got another one of those very heavy-hitting secondary weapons, which is really fun, and it's free, and I'm glad that it's free. A gun as iconic as that, coming into Payday 3 from Payday 2, if that was paid, I think you'd have had a lot of people kicking up a fuss. I do think the corpse launching isn't quite as strong as it was before, or at least not as reliably strong, but I mean, it's still fun to use, and I think that's what matters the most. And they're two of the biggest parts of this update. There are also some balance changes I'll talk about a little later on, but let's get into playing the Party Powder Heist, because this is the heist that came with the update on Monday, and it's not free, it's DLC. And I saw a lot of arguments from people saying this was not worth the DLC price. The funny thing with this heist is that when I first played it, I was kind of like, it's alright, it's a bit basic, but it's good fun. And I think it works fine. You can obviously see the Diamond District inspirations in it because it's very much a sandbox map. You go in, get as much loot as you can, get out. What I will say is I do think the loot secure is very accessible on this heist, perhaps more accessible than it was in Diamond District, because you only need 9 of 19 bags to get out on Overkill. And realistically, it's a lot easier to get bags in this, I think, than in Diamond District, or maybe that's just a skill issue talking. I've seen a lot of impressions about this heist saying that it wasn't very good, or that it was underwhelming, or at the very least it was mid. And, you know, these have been formed ahead of time by Starbreeze Partner Reviews videos, which, I mean, bear in mind, this is the first update since I left the Starbreeze Partner program where I had no early information, I had no early access on it. I mean, obviously I previewed Armor 2.0, like blogs and stuff as a partner, but the actual build of the update, I didn't even get offered it, let alone a chance to try it. And so when Starbreeze Partner Review videos came out, as far as like a month ahead for this heist, I feel like, I definitely was a little off-put by it because there was a lot of negativity around it, saying that it wasn't anything special, it wasn't a particularly amazing heist, and it being DLC meant it probably wasn't worth the money. And I admit that watching some of those videos and seeing some of the information, I didn't watch tons of it because I was slightly concerned how negative it would be and how much it put me off. Nothing against the partners, a lot of them are good friends, it's just I don't tend to watch review content that's negative too much if I haven't had a chance to form my own opinion yet. But I was definitely off-put by the vibe towards it and thinking, oh great, so it's just kind of the first heist that we've had in 5 months since First World Bank, the first DLC one we've had in longer, and it's incredibly mid. That's not great. I also do kind of think that some of those reviews came in far too early. I mean, this is just my perspective, especially someone who used to be a partner, but I feel like putting out reviews of a heist, especially if maybe there's some rumblings amongst the partners, which I'm guessing there had to have been before videos went out, that the general consensus was the heist wasn't very well enjoyed. I think putting out reviews on him that far ahead is to me a little bit of a hype killer, because if people are seeing a lot of negative reviews a month before the heists even come out, that kind of ruins excitement. And I know for me it did knock a lot of mine where I thought, oh, the first heist that's coming out where I've not had any inside information is going to be bad? Oh, that doesn't sound great. So I definitely think that maybe there should be a reflection on that, and I think I've heard that they're already going to build on that for the future anyway, for how they release partner reviews. If it's liked, maybe put them out sooner, get the hype going higher, but if there's an internal vibe that it maybe isn't as so good, at least amongst the partners, maybe bear that in mind with the embargoes, at least from my perspective. Obviously, I picked up the DLC and paid for it, and my views that I've had on DLC previously, you know, the whole, you know, don't buy it to support Starbreeze when they won't even support their own game attitude, that's still true. However, you'll remember with Update 13, I made the case of, you know, if you just want to have fun in a video game, don't stop yourself from having fun. If the heist looks fun to you and you want to pay for it, and you're paying for the content and not some overinflated sense of justice for Payday 3, just buy it. Life's too short, we only live once, just play the stuff you want to play, and no one else should care beyond that. not. But for me, I bought it obviously because I wanted to stream it, review it, and all that stuff, and give my perspective. And I've got to be honest, I think this is a pretty fun heist. I really like it. Did I seriously kill that cop and forget to hack his phone? Oh my goodness. But yeah, obviously this heist is very basic. It's not got anything special. It's not got any unique things to it. You know, there's a meth lab. We've already had a meth lab in Payday 3. There's loads of different loot to secure, but mainly cocaine, but in different locations. The RNG variance of it, I think, is one of the strongest that we've had in Payday 3. You know, there are multiple different warehouses and the loot could appear in a range of different crates. We're getting a bit more of that variance back, which I really appreciate, and I hope we get more of in the future. There's that flexibility if you need to get so much loot, but you can get more if you want. You don't have to. There's flexibility with regards to camera rooms. You know, there is a camera room in one of the white containers in the map that you can take out if you want. There's a lot of open sandboxy nature to this, and granted, while it does feel a bit basic, a bit simple, I think it thrives based on the layout that it has. And I came out of it on the stream on Monday. If you watched it, you'll know. I was more and more enjoying it the more I played it. I came into it thinking, this is actually kind of fun. I dig this. And the more I played it, the more I was like, this is really fun. Like, I really, really like it. If I was, you know, I should at some point rank the heists, because I haven't done that yet, and I very much would enjoy doing that to see where everything would end up sitting. But just at a very baseline guess, I would definitely put this in the top half of Payday 3 heists as, like, ones I enjoy. I really, I might enjoy it, but it doesn't stop me making stupid errors like that sometimes. Let's launch a couple of cops, come on. Oh! See, there is a good launch to it, but maybe not as grand as Payday 2's. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Like, realistically. I should have just done this anyway, then I could test the Justicar out a little bit. Good night, Vienna. I like how you get such a big cloud of blood in your face. By the time it dissipates, the body's already moved. You don't know, you didn't even see it launch. It just takes off. It's like a smoke grenade if you're Batman or something, but it's made out of blood. That's kind of dark. Anyway, let's restart it. So yeah, overall with this heist, I really, really dig the way that it's laid out. And out of a lot of the reviews I've seen, I feel like I'm one of the most positive about it. And I know, granted, like people have talked about before, and I've acknowledged that I am definitely the optimist of a lot of things. I often see the good in stuff even when other people can't. It makes sense that I'm going to probably have a slightly stronger positive opinion than other people. So I'm aware of the bias there. I get that. But I do kind of feel like these open sandboxy maps that Payday 2 did quite well. I mean, Shadow Raid, for all of the special, you know, traits and uniqueness it has based on loot and map location, all that stuff, that is, at its very core, just a sandbox map. You go in, you get as much loot as you can, different loot from different places, and get out. Granted, Shadow Raid has a lot more variance of loot. This is just cocaine, a little bit of cash, and meth. But I do feel that similarity. Now, I'm not for a second saying this is better or as good as Shadow Raid. It isn't. But it feels very similar in that regard to me. I just think it's really, really fun, and I'm enjoying it a lot. I think it's definitely better in stealth than it is in loud, but that's more because the way this map is laid out is meant to be a challenge for stealth players. It's meant to be an exploration, whereas when you go loud, it's just get into each of the warehouses, secure the stuff, get out. I think if you're a loud player, you'll probably have less positive to say about the heist than if you're stealth, and I'm aware that could also be a problem too. But just the nature of these kind of sandboxy heists in Payday 3, I think works really well. I think it works really, really well, and I think the more heists we get like this, the better, for absolute certain. It really helps the game a lot to have these very, very simple, sandboxy heists that are replayable at their very core. You know, set-piece heists are all well and good, and I think at launch, a lot of people did have fun with a certain amount of the Payday 3 heists, but obviously one of the big problems there was the more you played, the more repetitive it got, because things didn't really change too much between playthroughs. Some things did, don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying nothing did at all, but not enough changed, I feel like, and that was a big criticism that some people had for the Payday 3 heists at launch. And it's something it definitely feels like Starbreeze are trying to counter as they go along, which I can certainly appreciate. Now, you probably have a key card. Yes, you do. So I'm going to swipe that off your pants. You're probably going to turn around. Now, I'd like to get the body in the room over there, but you're there. Is there a lure in the area? Because that'd be really good. I never remember to use the lures. Lures? 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 How do you pronounce them? I don't know. Let's use it. Let's use a core Payday 3 feature that's been in the game since launch that I barely use, because I'm a bit of a dumb stupid head. Are you going to go for the... Oh, is it too far away for you to go to? Oh, that feels like an oversight. Oh. He's now been alerted by it once he's gone down the stairs. Oh, fella. I think you might need to have your hearing checked, bud. I do also really like the way the meth ingredients are spread across the map. I mean, I was under the impression on my stream that you always got one full set of ingredients in the meth lab, but that doesn't always happen. I've had spawns where only one or two of the base ingredients are in the meth lab, and everything else is spread across the map. And it seems like every time it's 4 bags of meth, and then 15 bags of other loot. So there is a little bit of a fixed nature to that, I suppose. But beyond that, where the loot is, it varies a lot, and I think that's good enough for me. I'd obviously love a situation where it turns out like Payday 2, where you have a different number of max bags depending on playthroughs. Sometimes you'll get more loot, sometimes you'll get less. But A, I understand based on the way they've laid out the looting system within Payday 3 as a core game function that may be harder to accomplish. But also B, there is also the argument that when you play a Shadow Raid sometimes again, for example, and you get less loot, it's kind of disappointing. You go, I've done really well in this heist, and there was less loot this time. Why are you on the roof like Batman? You went round to the roof? What? I'm sorry? You're kidding me. Okay, alright, well we got enough stealth gameplay while I was talking to show enough things off there. Let's just move on. Bro was stood on the edge of the building like I am the knight. That is hilarious. I didn't think they could go up there. When I did the sprinting earlier, and like obviously they heard it, that was to get across, but I didn't think they could climb up onto that part of the roof. I want to know how they got up there. Let's join a loud heist. Let's see if someone's playing it on a nice, chill difficulty. I'm not playing... Oh, then again, no, do you know what? Let's be brave. Let's be brave. Let's join on Overkill and get my ass beaten down and handed to me on a plate. That'll be funny. Although my Moscone is still bust. The what was it called? The compensation item? Actually, a few compensation items are still bust here. Starbreeze, you fancy fixing these at some point? You know, I'd love you to. I can tell they're compensation items because it says level 1 max level XP. And if I go earlier in, my other variant of the Moscone is chilling fine. My other variant of the Northwest B9 is fine. These are the compensation items that are just broken. Not ideal. Some fixes on that would be lovely, John Starbreeze, if you can make that happen. Thank you very much. And just to add to that point of value for money, whether you should buy the DLC or not, I'm not really going to recommend it one way or the other, but I will say £4 is not that much for a heist, or $5. Like, for me, I think the replayability of it helps aid towards a good value for money recommendation, but I am also able to read the room and see that a lot of people don't feel like it is. So what I will just say is use your own judgment. You know, further on what I've already said of buy it if you're interested in trying it yourself, you think it looks good and that you'll enjoy it, and for no other reason. Not to support a studio that, from the higher up level, does not care about the game as much as we do. All that stuff I've already said. It's down to personal opinion. So I'm going to kind of refrain from making a recommendation of purchasing it specifically. I'll just say that from my perspective, I feel like I've got my value for money out of it, although I'm aware that not everyone agrees. Let's play a bit of Overkill, because the last thing I want to talk about are the meta changes. Now, there's been a few interesting things to this. For one thing, one of the most notable things is if you are playing with multiple people in a lobby now, you will get more cops in the map at any one time. There's been a broad increase of between 5 to 15 cops in the map at any one time based on how many people are in the heist, which is really good. And again, I think it's a Payday 2 thing, right? There are a few changes that feel very akin to Payday 2 this update. And I know that's going to get the same crowd complaining that it's going to mean that it's feeling too much like Payday 2 too. I get that. I genuinely do. I've always said I feel like you need to accomplish a balance between... Oh, great. You need to accomplish a balance between feeling like the last game and also still feeling a little bit unique. And I know that's something they've struggled with up until now because they've talked a lot about Payday 3's identity crisis and how it doesn't really feel like enough of either game for it to really work or to function. But I do think there are certain elements that could feel more like Payday 2 without just feeling like a complete clone, and the way that combat is handled absolutely is one of them. I like the combat itself, I like the gunplay, but I definitely feel like you could push it a bit harder with the number of enemies in the map to make the high difficulties feel more difficult. As a lot of you know, if you've been around since Payday 3 came out, I've been a big campaigner for not hitting my shots. I've been a big campaigner for not wanting extra difficulties in the game. Only because it just kind of feels like as soon as you add one difficulty, you're opening a door that you just can't close. Once you add one difficulty, that will always be an answer down the line of, well, we could just add another difficulty. You know, oh, it's too easy, add another difficulty. Add a Death Wish, add a one down, add a Mayhem. No, don't do that. I'm not against them adding a difficulty at some point, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the longer you can make the current difficulties work and feel balanced, the better the game's going to be. I firmly believe that, and I don't think I'll ever change my mind on that. And so the work they've done to make the difficulty a bit harder, I think, has worked quite effectively in this. So you've got, as I've said, the additional response from enemies. You've also got an increased number of specials, like bulldozers in Overkill difficulty, I think specifically, maybe also very hard. And also a real notable buff to snipers. I've actually seen people moaning that snipers are too strong now, which I think is good. I think if there's one enemy you want to be too strong, well, maybe the bulldozer, but also the sniper. Because realistically, snipers are supposed to be the ones that catch you off guard and deal a lot of damage. That was always the case, at least modern times, in Payday 2. And I think that really works their favor. If a sniper doesn't really feel like it's doing much damage, then why should you even bother trying to respond to it? You know, you could just kind of shrug it off and go, oh, sniper's hitting me. Who cares? Let's just move on. Also, is no one going to get the teammate? I know obviously I could have, but it just feels like everyone's ignored them. At least I got the excuse of saying I'm trying to make a YouTube video and my focus is not well focused enough. English is my strong suit. But yeah, I personally think I'd rather the snipers be too strong than not strong enough. So if there's like a difficulty to reach that balance, then I'm much happier with it being too strong out of the two options. One of these days I'll guess a code and it'll be right. And I'll feel very, very cool. I mean, it especially helps that, you know, their first resort on making difficulties harder is not just to increase the health of the cops. That's a big difference. Like, it's actually, let's add more cops in. Let's add more challenging units in. Let's make some of the units stronger, but in their damage output and not in how much they can take. You know, that's another thing I'm glad they're trying to avoid, you know, trying to make people too bullet spongy. Because those are things from Payday 2 that would be unwelcome in this game, at least in my opinion. And it further plays into what I've been saying, which is that, you know, the game can feel more like Payday 2 without feeling like a carbon copy. Add more enemies, but don't make them bullet spongy, and then you've got something that feels like Payday 2, but is a bit of an evolution of it. You know, it feels as though it's a little different. It feels as though it's an improvement on the formula then, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think overall what they've done in terms of the difficulty is pretty strong. You know, I feel like making the game harder, and there's been a very clear response from everything I've seen online so far, and just from what I've played up to now, it definitely feels like people are experiencing the increase in challenge. There are definitely some people who are still probably saying it's too easy, and that's fair, but it definitely felt like there was a more common consensus meta-wise that the game was too easy last year, to the point where even I was commenting on it, and if you know me well, you know I'm not a big meta expert anyway, but if I was talking about it saying I'd seen that it was way too easy, that probably was a sign that it was a little bit too easy in places. And I definitely feel like now it's getting more challenging. There was a particular moment on my live stream on Monday, which I probably won't be able to find in time to get this video out, but there was a moment where about 15 or 10, 15 cops were all funneling out of one particular location, and it just reminded me of No Mercy in Payday 2. Just that element of let's just shove every single cop through a door and just see what happens. And that kind of fun unpredictability of it was quite welcome. If you get a lot of cops coming your way, not even ammo funnel could save you sometimes, and you actually feel a bit more of that stress, and that's nice. You know, that feels good. Ooh, double kill. Delicious. Although it would have been nice if you could have gone down at the same time, but it's fine. So yeah, to sum up everything, I'm really happy with this update. You know, you think about each of the 4 key pillars of this update. You've got the Justicar shotgun, which is just, you know, the judge reincarnate. Feels very fun to use, even if its corpse launching ability isn't quite as strong. But I mean, that's a nitpick, let's be completely frank here. You've then got Armor 2.0, a system that finally adds a bit more variance in how your armor works beyond just resistant or adaptive. You can customize between the two, and also have Payday 2 armor back either partially or in its entirety if it suits you. You've got the Party Powder Heist, a heist which, while it does come across a bit simple and a bit basic, and there's nothing, you know, overtly special to the way that it flows, is just kind of simple in a great way. You know, its simplicity is what makes it fun, and I feel like that's being undersold by some people. It's obviously a matter of perspective, and some people just will not enjoy it as much because of that. Totally fair. But for me, I feel like people are, like, some of the complaints that it's too simple are a little bit reductionist to just how fun a bit of a sandbox replayable Payday 3 heist is. Replayability is one thing this game needs so much more of, and a heist like this that actually feels like you could replay it a few times more than the average heist, I think is really good. I like that a lot. And I feel like it's being undersold as to how important that is, at least in my opinion, personally. And then finally, you got the changes to difficulties themselves, mainly on Loud, where enemies just feel like they're a little bit harder to respond to, whether it be in sheer volume or some of the damage that they deal, like with snipers. It just definitely feels like the meta and the overall flow of the game is stronger after this update than it was before. And as I said before, even if an update has bad elements to it, as long as we feel like there's a net positive overall, I feel like we're winning, you know? I feel like that's a good progress sign that, hey, things are getting pretty good, things are improving, and there's something to be happy about. And realistically, with Payday 3, you know, there's the whole debate of, oh, we're so back, it's so over. Probably should have led the video with this, and it actually was something I was planning to say at the start, but whatever, I'll say it now. I have said on streams and in my Discord that I am just not interested in saying it's so over, we're so back anymore with this game, because let's be completely frank here, every time something good or something bad happens, there's always something on the opposite scale to try and counter it, or at least most times it feels like there is. And I'm kind of sick of feeling like we're on that merry-go-round, we're on that seesaw. Payday 3 definitely should have more love from Starbreeze. It should not have taken 5 months for this update to come out. There should be more people and more funding behind this game, even if short-term it feels to Starbreeze like it's not worth it financial-wise. None of my opinions there have changed whatsoever. But on the other side of the coin, I'm just kind of sick of complaining about it, because Starbreeze clearly are not listening. You know, at what point while you're talking to a brick wall do you stop and realize it's a brick wall and they don't give a damn what you're saying? Because clearly the executives don't care, and that's never going to change. At least it doesn't seem like it's going to. And so at that point, I'm just like, I'd rather just enjoy the game. If something good's added, I'd rather just say, hey, I'm having fun with this thing. Because, as I said earlier, we've only got one life. I will criticize things I don't like. I'll always do that. But I just don't think in this update there is enough to warrant extensive criticism, at least from my perspective. I think that what we've got in this update is pretty damn fun, and I feel like I want to make it clear that out of all the updates we've had recently, I am having a lot of fun with this particular update. There's been some good stuff, and I'm really happy with it. That's just my take on it overall. So do let me know what you think, obviously, in the comment section below, but that will round up my thoughts on Update 14 for Payday 3. A lot of different ramblings and opinions and stuff on it, but as you can tell, from the most part, I am really, really happy with this. And let's finish off with a good bit of Sociopath, because, man, this thing is still fun. I do also still kind of wish that the neon, like, Hotline Miami music played while you were playing someone other than Jacket. Maybe that's a more divisive opinion, I don't know, but I think that was part of the fun of Sociopath, and I kind of forgot that was how it worked when I was streaming on Monday. And I was like, oh, why isn't the music playing? That's a bug. And I was swiftly reminded it's because I'm not playing as Jacket. I don't know. It just feels like a cool feature, especially if you're in a game where, you know, you're second to join and you don't get to play as Jacket. That's got to sting if you don't get one of the more fun parts of Sociopath every time you play. But either way, that will do all my thoughts on Update 14 on Party Powder. So if you've enjoyed this video, as always, please do give a thumbs up. It would be greatly appreciated. Help get the video out and see what more Payday fans think of my potentially good, potentially awful takes. We'll see what the opinions are and whether people think I'm in the right or wrong. Who knows? But I will see you all very soon with some brand new content. I know there is an interview with Ulf Anderson that I have not put out yet. I got a very bad stomach bug right after the Simon Vickland one dropped, so that is still coming, and it will come hopefully next week or two. I've got the Sonic 06 video I mentioned already, and just generally I want to try and put some more content out, both Payday and non-Payday, so do stay tuned, and I'll put some stuff out very, very soon. But until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Hope you have a great weekend, and hope you're enjoying the Payday 3 update as well. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section below. But on that note, as I go down one more time, I'll see you all soon. Take care.